All right. Eva, I think you have the floor.
Well, thank you so much. Welcome to the State of the Org of the Mountaineers in May. I would like to introduce myself real quick. My name is Eva Schönleitner. I am the newly minted Mountaineers Vice President as of late March of this year. I just picked a few pictures here. They're not the greatest, but you see Stevens Pass down in California, and that's my husband. That handsome man there, and us down in downtown Seattle. Everything was taken in the last like 4 weeks or so. Just a quick background on myself. I'm originally from Austria, hence this slight accent, but I've been in the US since 1993 and am actually a long time Mountaineers member since 2004. I know this totally dates me. And I've gone the route of what many of our members go. I've taken numerous classes from there, started leading some things and helping out, and then became a leader. And today, I've been very active in backcountry skiing and hiking and scrambling and snowshoeing, and then climbing, mostly in climbing. So I've been attending many things, and I lead a bunch of other areas. I was on the board once before in 2006, got elected and for one term. And so I am extremely excited of being able to be back on the board as vice president for the next 2 years. Professionally, I am in the technology industry, software. I'm one of those in Seattle, also ex-Microsoft, but currently business executive with a technology company in Bellevue. That's all about me. I'm looking forward to meeting many of you over the next years and hopefully out and about. That would be even the best. In addition to myself, I would like to introduce a few other new leadership team members. To start with, we have four new branch chairs. Michelle Abernathy out of Bellingham, Katja Kurt in Olympia, Scott Braswell in Everett, and Danny Cassidy in Tacoma. Please congratulate them and taking on these roles. That's quite a great leadership responsibility, and we're very, very happy of having the four of them as new branch chairs for the next several years. In addition to myself on the board, we also have a few other new board members. They'd like to introduce TJ King as the Vice President of the branches, Hali Sandoval as the new Tacoma branch representative, and Eric Jensen took on the treasurer role. So congratulations also, and thank you very much on being on the board and for all of us to be working together over the coming years. Before we move into the business, I would like to acknowledge the lands. And as you know, we as the Mountaineers, we acknowledge that we're on the lands of the Pacific Northwest Indian tribes who live here and steward the lands and the waters since time. And as we pursue our mission, we strive to listen to and amplify the native traditions and values through respectful engagement. This acknowledgement is really only the beginning, and I'm calling on all of us to making it real every day as we're engaging in Mountaineers activities and beyond, even with something as small as leaving no trace on a trip. With that, I'm going to give it to Tom, who found a much nicer picture than I did on Stevens Pass. So, Tom, why don't you take it away for the rest of the update?
Thanks, Eva. Yeah, so my photo here is this was from my sabbatical, which took place in March. So I hit my 10-year mark at the end of February, and I didn't waste any time. I went on my sabbatical basically the week after I hit my 10-year mark, and this was a picture up in Lofoten, which is in the very north part of Norway, above the Arctic Circle. So. Anyway, but thank you, Eva, for that warm welcome, and thank you all for dialing in tonight. It's been such an honor to serve our community for the last 10 years, and I said recently at the gala, actually, when I was toasting our 120th anniversary, that the thing that keeps me in this chair and keeps me motivated to continue to support the mission of the Mountaineers is our people. And I'm just so grateful for all of you. As I look around the screen tonight, I see especially so many volunteers, and I'm so thankful for the ways that you support the Mountaineers in our community and all of our students and everything. So really appreciate that. I'm going to go through just a very quick overview of some of the highlights from the last year, and then I'll introduce our strategic plan. And then I'm going to turn it over to some of our other staff leaders to go through some updates on our 3 strategic initiatives, which are under the umbrella of lead, engage, and advocate. We're going to go deeper into those things, but a lot of you, I think, are familiar with those things. But first, I wanted just to start off with some staggering numbers that really put into perspective the impact of the Mountaineers. It's when I look at these numbers, I'm just blown away, and it just underscores how much benefit we provide to all of our participants, our Mountaineers Books authors, our Mountaineers Books readers, all of our youth participants, and everything else. So we are over 17,000 members strong. And to put that in perspective, when I stepped into this role, we were at 10,000 members. And you all are responsible for that because you're leading trips, you're leading courses, you're getting people into the outdoors, and it's absolutely amazing. And that underscores the next number, which is we have almost 3,600 volunteers in the last year, which is absolutely amazing. Especially putting that against the number of members. The fact that we have so many people that are committed to our mission and to our community that they are volunteering their time. We're really grateful for that. Almost 550 new leaders in the last year. And the next stat that I just love to see is we had almost 1,400 people participate in our leadership development series. And there's a lot of different ways that we support our leaders. But I see Vienna on the line here tonight, and that's one of her programs. Thank you, Vienna. But it's just one of the ways that we support our volunteers. And it's just so great to see that folks are so committed that they spend their time enhancing their ability to be great outdoor educators and leaders. We had almost 3,600 trip participants. They traveled 225,000 miles and more than 48 million feet, which is amazing. It makes my legs hurt just thinking about that. We had 839 youth activities and nearly 14,000 youth participants. Becca, who's on the line tonight, will talk a little bit more about our youth programs, but it's one of the programs that I just am so proud of and is so important. We supported our participants with 348 scholarships, and this is memberships. It's to our youth programs, it's to our courses. And it's really what's really behind the scholarships is just making our programs more accessible so that financial need or other needs are not getting in the way of people finding a way to become part of our community and get into the outdoors. I'm really proud of that metric. We had 5,444 lodge stays, which is great. We're investing in our lodges. They are doing really well. And even in a tough snow year, actually, our outdoor centers did really well this winter. And we've got more and more summer and fall activities going on there as well. Tom Helleberg, our publisher of Mountaineers Books, is going to talk more about how Books is doing and some of the highlights there. But we published 38 new Mountaineers Books titles in the last year. Betsy Robley, our Conservation Advocacy Director, is going to talk more about our conservation advocacy programs. But we have done a lot of really great and important work on protecting public lands this past year. And one of those that I'm particularly proud of is helping to prevent a proposed public lands sell-off last year that honestly, we came really close to this actually happening. And literally the work we did here in Washington State had an impact on blocking a bill that was sent that was about to be sent from the Senate over to the House, and the work that we did here in Washington State helped to prevent that sell-off, which was absolutely amazing. And then finally, many of you are financial supporters of the Mountaineers alongside our volunteers, and we had nearly 3,000 donors last year, including more than 1,300 new supporters. And Shannon Robecki, our new Senior Director of Advancement, is going to be talking more about our overall efforts on philanthropy and community engagement later on as well. But thank you all for being a part of an absolutely amazing year in 2025. So some other highlights on these are kind of more qualitative, is that our community engagement is really at an all-time high. It's evidenced by our membership, but things like our volunteer, our rate of volunteerism, the number of people coming to events. People are just engaged with our community, and it's really great to see. I highlighted leadership development and the fact that so many of our leaders are seeking out opportunities like our leadership development series to enhance their teaching and their leadership skills is amazing. Our books continues to have a great track record of hauling in awards, as well as having great mission impact in providing ways for people to access the outdoors, both here in the Pacific Northwest and on a national and even international basis, which is great. I mentioned earlier that we are doing some really important and exciting work around revitalization of our outdoor centers. We've done a ton of work over the last 6 or 7 years at our lodges, and are on the cusp of doing some even bigger work in our lodges in the next few years. And you'll be hearing more about that in the coming year or so as we embark on some really important improvements to revitalize our lodges. Becca later will talk about some work that she and I and a number of our volunteers have been leading around sexual harassment and sexual assault prevention, which is a really deep commitment that the Mountaineers has to making Mountaineers programs a place that people can not only find physical safety, but emotional safety, and really just trying to create an environment where people can experience the outdoors and sense belonging without threats of things like harassment and sexual assault. Devin, who's not on the line tonight, she's probably actually out teaching a class or something tonight. She's super involved, is our associate director of technology, and she's been doing some really great work on improving our website, but also involving our leaders. And so we've had a lot of our more tech oriented volunteers that are actually now developing improvements on our website, which is super exciting to see, and just a further extension of our volunteerism. Betsy's going to talk much more about conservation advocacy, so I'm not going to steal any more of her thunder on that. But another thing that I'm very proud of is we've been working for about the last 8 years on reducing the Mountaineers' carbon footprint, and we've made yet more progress on that. We've got more projects in the pipeline, and so that's all I'll say about that. Betsy will tell you more, but I'm really proud of the work that we've done there, and that's also been very volunteer and donor driven as well, which is great. In an organization the size of the Mountaineers, at any given point in time, there's always challenges, and the last year is not any exception to that. We've been talking about course capacity for quite some time, and that's something that continues to be an important priority for us under our lead innovation and outdoor education strategic imperative. That's one of our big goals, is to try to make our programs more accessible so that we're not turning people away who want to find community and learn skills with Mountaineers. And course capacity is something we continue to work on. It is the next one is just that it continues to be an economic environment where expenses are going up faster than we're able to increase our revenues. And that, continues to be the case on everything from program expenses, insurance, across the board is a difficult thing, and we're navigating it, but it continues to be a financial challenge. Tom H. will talk more about some of the challenges we've had in books on a sales and margin standpoint. But in particular, there's some categories of books, such as guidebooks, that have been more challenging for us as people are using more and more digital techniques. And so we are in the midst of a strategy pivot on Mountaineers books that actually is going really well this year. But we're having to really kind of think about how we continue to evolve our model in Mountaineers books to be relevant and to be financially viable. So Tom Helleberg will be talking more about that. Overall, we're doing well on philanthropy, but one particular area where we've seen some challenges is in what we call institutional giving, and specifically that's corporate donations and things like grants. So that environment has been hard, and we are currently recruiting for a new major gifts officer that would be focused on institutional giving. And Shannon, maybe you can give a plug for that later in case anybody knows anyone who is maybe a good fit for that role. But it's a really important area for us, and we think there's a lot of opportunity there. But it was definitely a challenge in the last year. The combination of some some operating challenges as well as the fact that we've been investing in things like like inventory on Mountaineers books as well as in our lodges. Our operating reserves ended the year lower than we would have liked, and so we've been working on a project with the board of directors and with members of our finance committee on looking at our operating reserves and other reserves and figuring out some strategies there to make that more sustainable and still allow us to invest in the ways that we want to advance our mission. And then finally, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that we are facing a real crisis when it comes to public lands funding and then other public lands threats. And Betsy will talk more about that. But just a quick plug. Actually, Betsy and I just did an interview like literally an hour ago with a member of the editorial board of the Seattle Times who's writing a piece on this. But I just want to really encourage all of us to one, be advocates for public lands. Number two, to really kind of get educated on some of the issues around things like public lands funding, which is something that we're going to be talking a lot more about in the years ahead. And then number three, we're heading into a summer where our land managers are going to be really challenged to keep bathrooms clean, trailheads open, that kind of stuff. And we all play a part in being responsible recreationists. So it goes without saying with this group, but I just want to really encourage all of us to be as much part of the solution as we head into the summer. So when you net all these things out, here's some numbers in terms of how we landed at the end of 2025. But it was a pretty good year for us overall. When you look at our operating contribution, we had a positive operating contribution of $141,000, which was actually a little bit lower than our operating contribution in the previous year. And then, in the important footnotes section, I noted a couple of one-time things that actually made our numbers look better than they would have otherwise. And one in particular is that our development number included almost $380,000 in bequests where people left the Mountaineers in their will. And then I can't go into the details on the next one because it's under non-disclosure, but we did receive an insurance reimbursement for legal expenses that we incurred while we were defending ourselves against the KETA lawsuit over the last 4 or 5 years. It was a really great thing for us. It allowed us to offset a large percentage of the expenses that we incurred against that. But it's a one-time thing that somewhat overstated our results for last year. So it's important to keep that in mind. And on the challenges slide, I highlighted things like Mountaineers book sales and gross margin and institutional giving. But those were the things that when you peel out these one-time impacts and you normalize for those things, there were really a couple of areas that sort of drag us down. The great thing about the Mountaineers, though, is that we have this big portfolio of all different programs, from adult education to our youth programs to Mountaineers books to our philanthropy, and all of those things allow us to kind of balance things out. And so we've got work ahead of us, but overall we're feeling optimistic about where we're heading and where our financial position landed at the end of last year. And with that, then I want to transition to doing some Adventure with Purpose updates. So Adventure with Purpose is kind of the overarching vision of the Mountaineers, that we're not only focused on our individual pursuits in the outdoors, but that we are focused on ways that we can really make the world a better place by connecting people with the outdoor world and inspiring them to protect our public lands and get young people outdoors, et cetera. So that's what our strategic plan is all about. And we're going to spend the next, probably 30 or 40 minutes doing some updates around these 3 strategic priorities, which are lead innovation in outdoor education, engage a vibrant community of outdoor enthusiasts, and to advocate on behalf of the natural world. And each of the presenters under those strategic priorities will talk about these vision outcomes that are below. But the way that I think about this framework is that Adventure with Purpose is is the thing we're striving for is that, we're trying to connect people with the outdoors, inspire them to do bigger things than themselves. The strategic priorities are sort of the what of how we're trying to produce the strategic plan, and then the vision outcomes are really the things that we're trying to they're the results that we're trying to deliver as a result of pursuing these priorities. So, with that, I'm going to introduce Becca Polglaze, who's our Director of Programs and Operations. This is her on the left there, going down a canyon, which is Becca's happy place. And then Tom Helleberg, who's our publisher of Mountaineers books, reading a children's book, I think, right? Which is one of his happy places. So, anyway, with that, I'll turn it over to Becca and Tom to take us through our lead update.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Um, so in our lead innovation in outdoor education strategic priority, um, the idea is that anyone inspired to learn outdoor skills has that opportunity with Mountaineers. And we've created three goals within that. The first is fostering a vibrant community of skilled volunteer educators to meet the needs of a growing number of outdoor enthusiasts. And there's a lot in that sentence, right? It's a vibrant community that maintains momentum and more volunteers coming in, skilled volunteers, so ensuring that we are having folks who are skilled and feel like they're being developed as instructors, and then also being able to scale to meet the growing numbers. So there's a lot in that first goal. The second is invest in new and existing spaces to offer expanded educational opportunities and community connections. Um, we have amazing creative volunteers who can practically teach anything anywhere. But I think most of us know that at some point, without being able to put those skills to use on the terrain that you're going to be recreating in, it's hard to learn those skills. And so, really, working with our land managers and also, as Tom mentioned earlier, working on with our lodges and working on partnerships like the one that we have with Olympic Mountain Rescue over on the peninsula to be able to share space. And then third is publish and curate category leading titles and content in outdoor education. Tom Hellberg will talk more about that. But Tom Vogel gave you a little intro to it just a moment ago. Next slide, please. So one thing I want to highlight is the engagement in our leadership development series. Tom talked about this. Vienna's on the call. We, it's what's been very cool to see is not only the growth in participation in leadership development, but it's also the growth in offerings. And so we, at an organization level, have our leadership development series, which has really grown kind of a lot of different legs, I guess, of different topics. And people really value them and learn a lot from them, and that has a positive impact on the skillfulness of our leaders. But you can also see that each of our activity types is also offering more specific leadership development, whether that's technical skill development or how to teach climbing, those types of things. And so there's just general momentum around leadership development, which is a really important step towards that first lead goal. Next slide, please, Tom. I do want to highlight this past year, there's been a specific growth in partnering with guide services to provide that kind of higher level instructional training for our leaders and our instructors. And that has been facilitated at branches as well as through the Alpine Ambassadors, which is a program. There's a rock version and an ice version, and it's a program where volunteers who are teaching a lot and are climbing at a high enough level get to go and spend 6 days with professional guides, and they learn climbing skills, they learn sort of guide level rescue skills, and they learn a lot of instructional skills that they bring back to the Mountaineers. And then we also had 55 participant days with AMGA guides in addition to that. And we can see the impact in 2026. Been a 9% year-over-year growth in paying climbing students, and a 14% revenue growth because our climbing course prices have increased, but we're still seeing an increase in the students. So it's, although you can't draw a direct causation, I think it's not a coincidence that the two are happening together. Next slide, please. And so here's just a picture of what has happened over the years. You can see COVID. It's a big, deep V right there. Um, the bottom line is courses and clinics. The middle line are trip registrations, and the top line is combined. And you can see, as Tom mentioned, one of the challenges that we have is course capacity. And you can see that course participation has grown more slowly than trip registration. So that's something that we continue to work on. But overall, the vibrant community we can see growing in the trends. Next slide, please, Tom. And now it's over to Tom.
All right. This is looking at the past year, spring and fall 2025. It doesn't quite line up with we're in the middle now of launching our spring 26 activity, and then there's a little bit of difference between uh, pub date and season announcement. Will Gadd's Ice and Mixed Climbing is the poster child for that, where that was a fantastic book, but also delayed a couple of years. So we had 40 titles that were actually released in the spring and fall seasons, including our typical mix of where to, how to guides, histories and narratives, natural history conservation titles, including our Braided River imprint, Skipstone books, which is kind of our outdoor literature and lifestyle, kind of low level backyard activism and conservation titles. They're important, but it's not on the grand scale of Braided River talking about the Arctic. Um, we had 4 card decks, calendars, and journals, and then we had photography collections. So far, we've got 19 books released in spring 26. Great robust list. We had been working very hard to get up to that 35 to 40 books a year mark. I do want to note, Tom alluded to kind of the challenges with some of the categories that we publish in. In the past year, it became very apparent that there's a real threat to the where to and the how to guides from emerging AI competition and from crowdsourced resources like WTA, which are excellent, but they're not doing the guidebooks favors because it's real time information, crowdsourced information with low creation cost. It's tough to overcome that with a medium like books, where we invest heavily in creation, and it's a long production timeline. So I do just want to say that part of the strategic pivot that we're looking at in the year ahead is to pull back from the where to, figure out how to repackage the how to in ways that are going to be more durable and higher utility to users. So I do want to move away from this idea of title count being the sole metric of success, because we tend to talk about how many books we put into the world, but part of the strategic pivot is to reduce the size of the organization in the books area, and to reduce the number of titles, focusing on areas that we think have more durability against some of the rising threats. We can go to the next slide. One of the things we look at outside of just title count, we look at units circulated. We're about 450 to 500,000 units a year, predictably. But the books that we do get out into the world have a very big impact and are well received by a range of awards and critics. Here we had, since the last meeting, we were finalists for the Banff Mountain Book Awards, finalists for the Washington State Book Awards, won Forward Indies Awards, High Plains Book Awards, IPPEs, NOBAs, Nautilus Book Awards, punching well above our weight for our production. And just showing the Christopher Van Tilburg's Crisis on Mount Hood here. He did a great Be Wild for us earlier in the year. We can go to the next one here. Another thing that we're working on, we're trying to improve the book-specific philanthropy, restricted gifts, and institutional giving. And we had a couple of very exciting grants awarded this year so far. We've gotten the National Endowments for the Arts GAP 1 Award for the Alaska Literary Field Guide. This is a follow-up to our Cascadia Field Guide. It's a literary collection that kind of looks at large ecosystems from the perspective of a collection of species rather than biomes or geography. And it pairs poetry, art, and then natural history together. Very interesting approach. Cascadia, one of the editors, went on to become the Poet Laureate of Washington after publication, Derek Sheffield. That book was given as the staff gift to Governor Ferguson's staff. So very excellent that the second volume in the series was awarded an NEA grant. It was an area where we weren't, sure that NEA was going to be awarding a lot of literary grants this year, so we're thrilled to be on that list. The other thing we're working on that's a uniquely Mountaineers story. Longtime Mountaineers member Peter Hendrickson has been working with the Urban Hiking Committee to put together the Emerald City Trail, which is a 75-mile circumambulation of the city with a focus on parks and Olmsted green spaces. And we got a second grant from the Port of Seattle to put together a companion app to help with navigation. And now we are trying to see if we can really make the Emerald City Trail itself kind of a landmark similar to the Freedom Trail in Boston or the Crosstown Trail in San Francisco. Very exciting collaboration with the port and truly a homegrown Mountaineer story. So these are two very nice wins in trying to build that institutional giving from a book's perspective, kind of outside of our traditional zone. Shows we can kind of hang in there on the national level with the big houses in a very affirming way. We can go to the next slide. And then continuing in that vein, coming up here on May 21st, we have we launched Braided River years ago as a conservation imprint and a companion 501c3 organization. We're looking to do the same with Skipstone to focus on the outdoor literature output of Mountaineers books in parallel with how-to and educational production, which will remain under the Mountaineers books imprint. Skipstone already exists. It's out there. Bird with the Flaming Red Feet is one of our publications. We're going to have a literary salon at the Folio Athenaeum in Pike Place Market coming up on May 21st. New territory for us, fun and exciting event, and a lot of thanks to Shannon and Jackson for helping to brainstorm and put this together, but it'll be hors d'oeuvres, refreshments, book talk, signed books, and all kinds of surprises. So this is continuing to try to build out that outdoor literature philanthropy and just to build community kind of outside of core activities-based groups that appreciate the outdoor literature outputs of Mountaineers books. And I think that's what we got. Tapping in Becca and Shannon.
Yeah, so Becca is still in the hot seat, and then Shannon I introduced earlier, but probably a lot of you or some of you haven't met Shannon. Shannon is our newish senior director of advancement, who, like a lot of other staff members, not only is on staff as your day job, but also volunteers. So, Shannon, welcome, and I'll turn over the floor to the two of you all.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So, engaging a vibrant community of outdoor enthusiasts. What we're aiming for is that every individual can find inspiration and belonging in the outdoors through Mountaineers community programs and books. So we really want folks to feel like they belong in this organization. And so the first goal within that strategic priority, cultivate an organizational culture of outdoor equity and belonging. That while it's a goal and part of a strategic priority, it's something that we are trying to weave into, rather than treating as its own project, really weave it into everything that we're doing. The second is expanding our youth programs to foster lifelong connections with the outdoors. And the third is deepening our culture of giving back by providing new opportunities to contribute. So, yeah, we'll dive into that right now. Next slide, please. So Tom mentioned the work we've been doing on sexual harassment and sexual assault prevention. We have done a number of things so this committee, it works both for the long term as well as some near-term changes. So the committee is kind of working on some more challenging policy changes while doing some things that we can do right now. So some things that we've done, we've updated the incident reporting form. to include behavior complaint information, because that was confusing to folks whether to fill if they were filling out an incident, but it's really a behavioral issue, how to do that. So we improved that. Um, Also, we found a gap in reporting where we didn't have any real way for an incident that did not happen as part of an activity to be reported. And so we created a general incident report form for those types of things. Nomi has been our communications coordinator on the committee, and she's just done a phenomenal job writing blog posts and making sure that the work that we're doing is getting communicated out because that's so important. We also earlier in this fiscal year created an interim policy prohibiting individuals with a recent sex conviction from participating in Mountaineers activities. And we've also updated the member code of ethics. Um, and 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 I'm not ready to go to the next slide, but on the next one, I'll show you the course introduction template that we've shared out. Upcoming, we're working on again revising the baby behavior complaint form, just to help get the right information and help individuals feel comfortable filling it out. We continue to work, as I said, on policy updates, and incorporating. There's so much good work around, and the other thing that's interesting is the work that's happening with sexual harassment, sexual assault prevention, leads to a feeling of safety. That's the goal. We want people to feel safe in our programs, and that it's hard to feel like you belong somewhere that you don't feel safe. So it has a really kind of elegant overlap with some of the equity and inclusion work that we're doing. And it also just creating that safe environment. It's also, there's so much good work happening at the branches. And so how do we fold that in at a strategic level, at an organizational level? Next slide, please, Tom. So I just actually shared, this is, I think, 4 or 5 slides. This is basically the slide deck, and the idea is that any course can pick up this slide deck and throw it in the beginning of their welcome presentation, just to set the tone for the course. So next slide. It starts with norms, expectations, and then lets students know, hey, our goal is for all participants to feel a sense of belonging in the outdoors, and you're expected to treat each other with respect, demonstrate integrity and honesty, and promote inclusiveness. Next slide. It talks about what to do if there is problem behavior and how you, as a participant or a volunteer, can help to prevent that or take action should that happen. And next slide. And then sort of what that looks like. And next slide. And then a final slide that says, hey, we just want everybody to feel like they belong here, that they're respected, they're included, and everyone's working together to make good decisions and manage risk together. So that is a slide deck that's been shared out to leaders and committees that we hope will make it easy to adopt this, to set the tone so it becomes more of just sort of the standard expectation in the Mountaineers, that isn't unspoken but is very direct and intentional. Next slide. So youth programs. This is the second of the engage priority. This is the second goal. Just to give an overview for those who may not be familiar, our youth programs, we are the suite of youth programs that we have. There's sort of 3 different types of programs. One is partner programs. So that is working together with youth serving agencies or other organizations, schools, to partner with them on programs to get the kids outside. And so we work with their leaders to understand what their goals are and have staff and volunteers take those groups climbing, camping, hiking, And so we have partner programs in Olympia, Seattle, and Tacoma. Um, our youth clubs, we have those are year-round clubs, so they're sort of a much deeper, more intensive Mountaineers experience. They're year-round. They start with mini Mountaineers. Those little ones are ages 2 to 5 with their parents, all the way up to our teenagers, which is Mountaineers Adventure Club. So they're grouped by age. Parents are very involved with the younger age groups, and as they get older, parents are less involved. But there's really a cool parent community that comes out of these programs as well. And once they're in high school, they're doing alpine climbs, and so the programs, and then they graduate and they come back and help teach the next level. And we actually have one graduate who I think just completed basic alpine equivalency. He's in college now. So it's a pretty cool way to help future adults feel like this is their home. Um, and then we have summer camps and spring break and winter break camps in Kitsap, Olympia, Seattle, and Tacoma. Those camps range in age from 5 to 16. Um, and I think they're entirely week-long camps. Some are shorter than that. The tiny ones are shorter than a week. Next slide, please. Just a quick spotlight on our partnerships. One of the cool things we did last year was the Vibe Outside Conference. This was hosted by our MAC students, so our teenagers, pulled together a number of organizations who brought their youth in. We had volunteers give presentations. Tom gave a presentation on outdoor leadership for these teenagers who are involved in um, any kind of outdoor program. So that was a really cool opportunity. There were about 50 youth who came together for the day just to talk about outdoor leadership. Um, and also, I actually had the good fortune to work with Bailey Gatzert Elementary School this past Saturday. They came to the Mountaineers Seattle Program Center to climb. And they were one of our first partner organizations. It's a very cool partnership. The Rotary Club funds the bus and the food and the like lunches and snacks. And they send volunteers who help to facilitate the snacks. And then the school comes with teachers who are not getting paid. They're just volunteering on their weekend to volunteer to chaperone the kids. And then Mountaineers staff and volunteers help with whatever the activity is. It's an elective for the kids, and they're just so incredibly into it. So it's a really cool partnership, and I think it speaks a lot of the partnership that it has lasted with very little effort for 15 years. So we're kind of proud of that. Next slide, please. Yes, and this is our third true year, I guess. We had a little bit of a false start a couple years prior, but this is our third year of lodge camps. We started with doing a few weeks at Stevens, a few at Baker, a few at Meany, and that was a great way to get a feel for what the camp is and how it operates at the different lodges. Last year we did 10 weeks at Stevens. And Stevens is Baker is wonderful, and we all love Baker. But for little kids, there's not much to do besides hiking. Stevens Lodge has rafting and rock climbing, and the ski resort itself has like giant checkerboards and things for kids to do during free time. So it's really, really well suited to summer camp. And so this year we'll be doing 8 weeks at Stevens Lodge and then 2 weeks that are backpacking trips. So we're really excited about that evolution of our lodge camps. And next slide. And this is just some testimonials about how impactful our camps are. We have kids who return year over year. We also in Seattle and probably next year in Tacoma have a lottery process because the camps are just so popular that they break the website. So we have a lottery. It also makes it a lot more equitable, so that folks can get 1 or 2 weeks rather than someone taking 5 or 6 weeks. But we also have summer campers who grew up and come back as camp counselors. We have summer campers who move into year-round clubs. So a lot of good impact in our summer camps. Next slide, please. And this, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon.
I'm going to give a high-level overview of where we're at this fiscal year with our community engagement team. And community engagement is made up of philanthropy, membership, and communications. We're currently at almost 16,800 members, and I'm pretty confident we'll reach that 17,000 or more by the end of the fiscal year. So we're looking good with membership. Philanthropy, we're 67% to our fiscal 26 goal already at just shy of 1.3. And was it last Saturday already? When was the gala? The 26th? We raised $525,000 at our annual Adventure with Purpose Gala, which was an incredible evening. If you didn't make it, I highly recommend coming next year. It's absolutely a fantastic night. We had a new event featuring some Max students doing a relay challenge. You can see little snaps of them in the photo down there, but it was a great night. We raised a lot of money for our goal this year. So looking good with philanthropy. On the communication side, we just launched a new audio channel, which is a really exciting project. We have 3 playlists on our Mountaineers Dispatch channel. We have a Mountaineers Ascent playlist, which features adventure and human interest stories from our community, an Adventure with Purpose channel, which is conservation advocacy or other impact stories. And we have a Mountaineer Magazine channel. Tom, there we go. Thanks. Which is an audio version of the magazine. So that helps a lot with accessibility. Just having, if people don't have time to sit down and read the magazine, they can put it on the car. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so. We have a portlet on the webpage, our homepage. You can also access it through SoundCloud and Spotify. And I believe we're working on Apple Podcasts, but to TBD on that. We're also launching soon, probably next month, a Mountaineers communication survey. We're really looking to the community for feedback on types of content that we're putting out, the channels that we're using, frequency of communications from the staff side. And we're not talking about the things that come out from volunteer leaders or things like that, but the content that we create and we send out, newsletters, blog posts, social, things like that. So if you receive that, please do take a moment to fill that out. We're looking at updating some of our comms, and we really do want feedback from the community. So next slide, Tom. Upcoming events. Tom H. already gave an overview of the Literary Salon, but we're really excited about that. In conjunction with that, on the philanthropy side to support books, we're also developing a book-specific giving circle that we'll be launching hopefully that evening, that will really look to steward and develop a pipeline of donors that are more book-specific. So we'll attract the donors that are outside of the core Mountaineers community that are really interested in supporting nonprofit publishing, specifically Mountaineers Books or Skipstone imprint. And we'll be able to steward them and cultivate them more in alignment with what their interest area is. So you'll see that come out soon. And we also have a really exciting Be Wilds event coming up in July with Keely Yuan, who did the Guardians of Life. So it'll be an incredible event. It will maybe sell out, I think, likely. So if you don't yet have your tickets, definitely hop on and get those. Thanks, Tom.
All right, so next up is Betsy Rodley to give us an update on Advocate on behalf of the natural world.
All right, thanks, Tom. So our Advocate strategic priority on the next slide, similar to the other strategic priorities, has 3 goals. The overall outcome is that our community makes a meaningful, enduring impact in protecting our planet and the outdoor experience. And then our first goal is achieving high impact outcomes for conservation and sustainable recreation access through new and deepened partnerships and policy expertise. Our second goal is to inspire and equip our community to be highly effective advocates for climate and the natural world. And our third priority is to act urgently to minimize our organization's impact on the environment. Certainly a critical time for our public lands and conservation and advocacy. And we set these goals into motion a few years ago, but we feel really good about just all the investments that we've made and the progress that we've made in this area that really set us up well to face the real challenges that we're encountering right now. So on the next slide, we've got a few numbers for advocacy. There's a couple things here that I'd like to call out. One is that 17,000 plus messages to lawmakers shows that our community was just really engaged in writing their lawmakers on behalf of public lands and recreation over the last fiscal year. Nearly 5,000 hours of stewardship. That is something that's entirely done by our volunteers. And we just have some tremendous volunteers who really pour their hearts and souls into organizing opportunities for a community to get their hands dirty and give back in a really tangible way to protect public lands. We have 33 subscribers to our current e-newsletter, and that just shows that our conservation community is broader than our nearly 17,000 members. So there's a lot of folks around the state that look to us for leadership and to get information on conservation and advocacy. Those 37 meetings with lawmakers and 72 comment letters that we've written or signed are really work that me and my team does every day. We're in Zoom meetings, in-person meetings in Olympia and DC with our lawmakers. We also regularly meet with land managers and tribes and our partner organizations. And then Mountaineers love their badges, and we've got a lot of Mountaineers earning our conservation and advocacy badges. So low impact recreation, protect, public lands 101 and advocacy 101. Advocacy 101 is our newest course, and that just teaches folks the nuts and bolts of how you be an advocate and provides tools for people to be even more active with advocacy. Next slide. So Tom mentioned this, but a real spotlight of our advocacy over the last year has been preventing large-scale sell-offs of public land. And if you're here on this call, you've likely heard about this and you've likely taken action. But last June, there was this really egregious proposal that was floated in Congress to sell off nearly 3 million acres of public land, Forest Service and BLM land. And if you saw those maps, it was places that all of us care about. That's kind of unbelievable that you could just put them up for sale and anyone with enough money could buy them. It was really unprecedented. It was a proposal to pay for tax cuts in the budget reconciliation bill, the big, beautiful bill that Congress ultimately ended up passing last summer. So we saw this proposal. The Mountaineers and our broader outdoor community spoke up in large numbers. Over 10,000 of those overall 17,000 messages to Congress were about this issue, not surprisingly, from our community. And as Tom mentioned, it wasn't just our grassroots advocates that made a difference here. We, through our partners with Outdoor Alliance Washington, a coalition that we lead, did a meeting with Representative Dan Newhouse in 2024, and he represents Central Washington in Congress. He actually ended up joining with 4 other House Republicans to send a letter to leadership saying they wouldn't vote for a bill that contained public land sell-offs, which is pretty significant. And we think that the relationship building we did with him, telling him just how important public lands are to his district, helped give him political cover to oppose that. So we're actually meeting with him tomorrow, ironically enough, to thank him personally for what he did to stand up against public land sell-offs. And so really looking forward to that opportunity. Ultimately, this proposal was removed from that bill that ultimately ended up passing, largely as a result of just overwhelming opposition. But we can't be complacent. We can't say, we beat it once, it's not going to happen again. They learned their lesson. Unfortunately, there are folks in Congress that this is like what they wake up and think about, amazingly enough. So we have to remain vigilant. So next slide. This wasn't the only thing that we fought back against over the last year. There's been, as you all probably know, just again, unprecedented threats to public lands. I'll cover just a few tonight, but one that's really important to mention is the proposed rescission of the roadless rule. So the roadless rule is a conservation protection that protects what's called roadless areas, which are, they kind of seem like wilderness areas. They're just tremendous unroaded backcountry forests. And they have this administrative protection that prevents building roads into them. It prevents commercial timber harvest and mining. So it's a really important protection. We have 2 million acres of roadless areas in Washington. The map here shows my favorite roadless area, and probably several of you on this call, you've been here and you love it as well. The area around Washington Pass with that incredible climbing and the Pacific Crest Trail running through it. The Heather Maple Pass loop. And this is one of the places under threat from rescission of the roadless rule. So we have been spending a lot of time activating our community around this issue. We held a really successful community meeting at the program center a couple of weeks ago. We had Senator Cantwell provide a video and speak. We had the governor come, show up in person and speak. We had several tribal leaders, really well attended, from organizations and members of the public that provided testimony. And the next opportunity to speak up is coming up soon. It could happen any day now, and that will be the publishing of a draft environmental impact statement to rescind the roadless rule. So please keep an eye out on that. You will get messages in your email encouraging you to provide a comment to the Forest Service. So that's one to watch. And then the second issue I want to raise here, oh, we're still on threats to public land, Tom, unfortunately, is the reorganization of the Forest Service. Some of you may have heard, we published a blog last month with an action alert that the Forest Service is proposed to be reorganized. Highlights of that are moving the headquarters of the Forest Service from DC to Salt Lake City, eliminating the regional offices, and proposing to close research stations, so including some in Wenatchee and Seattle. We're concerned that these changes are ultimately going to undermine the agency's ability to fulfill its mission and steward public lands. And when you take this proposal in the larger picture of the administration's cuts to staffing, proposing to rescind long-standing conservation protections, changing the process for public comment and not wanting as much input from the public, the executive order on timber production. It's just all very concerning, and one that we're encouraging people to keep an eye out for and speak up about. And then the last issue on this slide is, as Tom mentioned, continued chronic underfunding of public lands at the state and federal level. That's really only getting, it's been an issue for a long time. It's only getting worse. There's been cuts of 25% of Forest Service and National Park staff. again, as Tom mentioned, we're concerned about impacts on the ground and encouraging people to recreate responsibly this summer. And we're also seeing cuts from the state legislature, cuts to state public lands. There's been a budget shortfall at the state level, and um, ultimately the outdoors was not immune to being cut. And the Department of Natural Resources has announced that they'll be closing campgrounds and bathrooms. And state lands, just like federal lands, have been underfunded for years. And we are starting working with other advocates to think about more sustainable, long-term, more robust funding mechanisms. So really wanting to put a lot of energy towards this over the next few years. All right, now we're able to go to the next slide, which is ending on some good news, which we all need after those last two slides. The good news, and this is related to our third goal in the advocate strategic priority, is lots of amazing progress on reducing our organization's carbon footprint. This is work that we started taking on a number of years ago, and it was really our first step to address the climate crisis within our organization by getting our own house in order and doing what we can to reduce our organization's carbon footprint. It's work that's really led by volunteers. We have an incredible carbon footprint reduction committee that's just true visionaries, folks that have really made a huge difference for our organization, really dedicated. And as a result of their efforts, the Tacoma Program Center is net zero plus. So that means that we actually generate more energy than we use, and we are able to store that energy in battery backup systems. That enables us to serve as a community resilience hub in the case of an emergency and power outages in Tacoma. So that's amazing. And then with the Seattle Program Center, we've made some great progress over the last year, getting towards net zero at the Seattle Program Center, which, as you all know, is a bigger building than Tacoma and a little bit more expensive to get us there. We already have those solar panels on the roof. But the big news is that the Seattle Program Center is getting heat pumps this summer. That is not only good for our carbon footprint, weaning us off natural gas, but it also makes spaces like Cascade and Goodman cooler, safe from wildfire smoke in the summer for our kiddos at summer camp. And that is thanks to almost $500,000 in grants that we applied for and received from the city of Seattle and Puget Sound Energy. So that's really great that we're getting that grant support. And I pulled the numbers from our website. Reaching net zero carbon emissions for the Seattle Program Center will save an estimated just over 7,000 therms of natural gas and 85,000 pounds of CO2 from being emitted into the atmosphere each year. And that's equivalent to taking 8 gas-powered cars off the road each year. So pretty incredible. We are not quite done with getting the funding that we need for completing this net zero project, but we're looking to seek additional funding for adding solar capacity to the solar panels on our roof, installing a battery backup system like we have in Tacoma, and a couple other ancillary projects like replacing our water heater with a heat pump water heater. So if you're fired up by that and want to help us out, you can look up the Net Zero Fund on our website, and we would love your support there. And then last but not least, next slide is just a plug for our Evening of Advocacy coming up in September. And you can go to the next slide for more details here, Tom. September 24th is the date. Tickets and information are available at that website below. We will, like we do every year, bring together an awesome panel of folks talking about how we're defending public lands, the key issues of the moment, and how you can help. and most importantly, raising money for our conservation and advocacy program, which is almost entirely funded by the support of our donors. So hope to see you in September. Thanks, Tom.
Amazing. Wow. We've had a great year. We're off to a great start this year. And huge debt of gratitude to all of you, because I think literally every person I see on the screen here is either a volunteer or a donor, or both. And we couldn't do all this amazing work without your support. So thank you, and thank you to all the staff members. There's also a number of board members. So I see Anita here. Takeo's recently just rolled off the board. I would say TJ. So anyway, thank you all for serving in leadership roles as well. So at that point, I think we're gonna I'll stop sharing and we'll open it up to any questions that you all have. I didn't see anything in the chat box. So questions, comments. I've got a question for you. I'll be brave and I'll start it off. So I didn't plant this question, so I apologize for putting you on the spot. But what was your motivation for saying yes to stepping out of the board as our vice president? What gets you energized about our mission or our community?
Oh, Lordy. Thank you. I mean, you saw that I've been involved for so long, but honestly, I mean, for all my friends that know me, I had an expat job in Switzerland for 8 years and just returned back to Seattle about a good year ago. And the first group I thought of immediately to re-engage, of course, was the Mountaineers. But we bought a house and I'm still doing renovations. I'm wearing painting clothes today, as we got new windows and I was painting the trim layer again. So I was thinking, yes, I'm gonna get back into the activities as soon as I have a little bit more time, but because also from a professional perspective, I gained a lot of experience over the last few years. How can I contribute more beyond the activities and going out to climb and to enjoy the environment? And I've fond memories of my first board membership, but when then I was asked to join and to think about it, it's like, okay, do I have the time? I mean, I know it's a commitment. You don't want to just do it and have occasionally show up, but to really be involved. And I thought this is the perfect opportunity to get involved at the programmatic level, to also bring my professional expertise as appropriate, if it makes any sense, where I can help. And also, of course, connecting with friends and getting back out there. So I think it's just a culmination of really being the right time. I'm back in Seattle. I'm so happy. And I really strongly support our vision and mission of where we're going, of all the pillars that we've seen. So I'm really eager to make an impact and to help us bring us forward.
That's a great answer. Wow. For putting you on the spot. You did awesome. Yeah, we're grateful. Thanks, Eva. What else?
It
Takeo?
was so clear. It's
Great to see Takeo calling in from the Bay Area. We miss you, Takeo. Hope you're doing well.
Not a question. I just love the all the progress the organization's making, and yeah, please keep it up.
We will do that. Any other questions, or anything that that we've got at least a couple of other board members, TJ and Anita, that are on. Anything that you all would like to add? Any given moment, there's so much going on across the organization. It's hard in a call like this to really be comprehensive, but hopefully you've got a little bit of a taste of all the great work that we're doing collectively.
Tom, since I kicked it off, and I think the audience is too shy to ask questions on a recorded line, let's be honest. Let's close it for today. I really appreciate everybody of giving the update and big education for myself as well, since I'm new to the board. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll all get a lot of questions and support of all the initiatives that we've heard earlier today. And we're on a great path of doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Great to see you all. Bye now.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.